It's a Carson Price from the historic Wall Center. And Blake, one thing I don't miss about living back east is shoveling the driveway.
Yeah. Jeff Merrick's got
when you had to go and shovel the driveway, and my dad's line was, "Don't nobody buy me a snowblower. I have 2 healthy sons. They are my snowblowers."
Yeah.
And you have to put the toque on, and then you come back inside, and the hair is all disheveled. Hi, Jeff.
Look
par
at
for the
this.
course.
Look at this loaf I have on my head. So I've been bugging Emil Delich at Nation Network for an S&P hat now for 2 weeks, and I'm waiting for it to arrive because I think it's the best look that we have. I'm like, oh, that's a sick lid. I would be putting it on now because the feathers that I have going here. I mean, on a good day, I look like the Kraft peanut butter bear with my hair because it's just like poof, right? Like that's kind of my thing. But I apologize.
Who's the guy
watching this right now?
I've seen a lot of the Sheet advertisements on the Nation Network feed. Who's the guy on the? Because he's so good looking.
He's perfectly coiffed.
Yeah,
the guy that doesn't have any wrinkles. The guy with the perfectly coiffed hair. The guy that knows how to do up a tie. Oh, yeah. Who's that guy?
I'll say this:
I joined his show. Across his face, looked good. Yeah, what happened to that?
I joined his show last week. He used a very dated airbrush. Thinned out.
Matt
Thank you for that. Listeners were asking, Matt, who is that guy? When is the last time that guy has been around?
Matt's younger brother, Steve Sekeres.
You have a PSA, a word of advice here to our listenership,
for
audience?
all of your listeners, for all of your entire audience, whether you're watching this, you're listening to this, do yourselves a favor, because every time that I mention it to someone, it's very rare that this one lands and people know what I'm talking about. But at the holiday season, this Christmas time, do yourself a favor and search out and play for yourself, your kids, the whole family. I'm going to see what reaction I get from you two guys. Maybe blank stares and maybe oh, wow, you're in the club too, Marek. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Say what?
Oh, really? That one didn't land for either of you guys?
No.
It's a Jim Henson. It is a hidden gem. It is a Jim Henson masterpiece from the late 70s. I'm not going to spoil any of it for you. The music is great. The puppets are awesome. Frank Oz is in it. It's very cool. Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Okay.
All right.
It's a show. All right.
Will know it's
Do you know where it is?
It's a children's book. Movie. It's a children's book, but it is. Yeah. It was made into a Christmas TV special.
But do you know where you can get it?
It's a Christmas movie. I'm pretty sure. I mean, you can order it online. I'm pretty sure probably YouTube will have the entire thing. Yeah, Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas.
Okay. It's 100% on Rotten Tomatoes. How about that? Nothing is ever 100% on Rotten.
I'm telling you, everybody that watches this falls in love with it, and the music from it you will hum for the rest of your life.
Oh,
I'm telling you, it is a hidden Christmas gem. It is a beautiful one of Jim Henson's most beautiful works, and it's been completely hidden and sort of lost.
Muppet Christmas Carol is not too shabby either, by the way.
The Muppets. Yep. Yeah. Same vibe, but this one's got like the heartstrings Christmas thing along with it. You know what I'm getting at, Blake. You guys will love it.
Yeah. Okay. All right. It's on the list.
Okay.
As you may have heard, Elias Pettersson and JT Miller aren't the best of buddies, so we're asking on our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question, what's more likely for the Canucks? A blockbuster trade, including one of them, Rick Tocchet getting fired, or peace on earth? Where are you voting? Where are you voting, Jeff? And we mean their earth, right?
Yes.
We don't mean peace on earth at large.
That's
no chance of that,
no.
but...
Matt, can I see that map again? Can I have a look at this place you call Earth? Can you be more Pacific, as we say in the Atlantic?
Yeah, Pacific is the right call there.
I've always been of the mind, and I'm going to give you a very specific example in a second. I've always been of the mind that you don't need to like someone to do business with them. We've talked about this before. There was Bob Gainey and Serge Savard. Like, there have been so many teams, like successful teams, that have had players that profoundly don't get along, and it's not exactly a secret. I mean, there has to be a sort of level of maturity and respect for it to work, but the history of hockey is I can't find one dressing room in the history of the sport where everybody got along. Like, there's various levels of it. Sometimes it's nasty. Sometimes you have to do something. Sometimes the general manager gets ushered into duty and needs to start picking up the phone and say, we got a problem here. There's only one way we're going to solve this. But I've always been of the mind it's always better, and especially in this situation with Pettersson and Miller, two players that are that don't have, for the two players that do something very distinctive on this team. I'm always of the mind that the best case scenario is you keep both of them. At whatever cost. Like that's the moving one of them to me is the in case of emergency break glass moment for the Vancouver Canucks. Do you guys not feel the same way?
Well, 100%, but are we not there?
Are
we not there? Because right now, the brass tacks is, it has got to the point now where I think this has become such a distraction. It has completely nullified the top six of the Vancouver Canucks. Like the top six just isn't doing anything. It was zeros across the board last night. And if not for the depth, they'd be getting no goals at all right now. So it feels like situation critical right now, Jeff, which is just unfathomable given that this core has been together for years, that they can't figure this out.
So I wonder if the play here is then, I mean, first of all, you look at the ages and you look at the contracts, but I do wonder if at the end of all of it, if Jim Rutherford and Patrick Allvin are going to be forced in the corner and, the gun to the head and you have to move one, I think you gauge the market and you say, okay, who can we get the most for? Who can get us that defenseman that we need? Who can get us another top six forward that we need? I think you probably go to market and say, like, look, these players are available. What can we get for them? And, you fish in the usual spots that everyone is sort of going to, whether it's Buffalo or whether it's New York, maybe Philadelphia as well. Anaheim always seems open for business. And you see, what the market will bear and what the market will offer you.
I have a bad short-term memory, but does the Rangers and Canucks scenario just seem ultra soapy for the NHL? Like, do we have this every year?
The Rangers Canucks scenario?
Well, just independently. Both of them have their own soap operas going on here, and it just seems extra crazy this year.
You know what though? I think as you know, what's interesting, Blake, as the years have gone on, like this kind of, I don't know where it exactly started, and maybe it's like the last 3 years. Does it not feel like the soap opera by the end of the season, so many teams are soap operas, but that's just, you go through 82 games and personalities and dynamics and wins and losses and road trips and arguments. Like by the end of the season, it's a long journey and there's going to be soap operas. But the difference now is in the NHL, the soap operas start earlier. And I wonder if it's because the pressure to win starts in game one, that, there's no idea now of sort of, just sort of sailing into the season, getting a feel. No, like you're expected to win like right away, and decisions are made quickly. Decisions are made on teams and decisions are made on players, which is why, what was that? I think the ad camp was one of the ad camp. Was it last year or 2 years ago from the NHL? No soap operas here. Are you kidding? It's all soap operas, but from a viewer's point of view, it's great. Like lean into it. Look what the NBA has done, leaning into their soap operas.
Totally. Yeah.
Right? Like if you have a situation, I know it's uncomfortable for the teams and they don't like it and they'd like to keep it all in house and keep it in the room and nothing gets out of these four walls, but it's great for the league. Like I know I know that the Pettersson-Miller dynamic is really uncomfortable for everybody in that room and the head coach and the general manager, et cetera, but from a league point of view, as far as like raising, this is a whole different sort of level of intrigue that now all of a sudden you want to see how this soap opera plays itself out. It's uncomfortable, but I mean, we dine out on it, fans dine out on it, everybody dines out on it, and ultimately, I think it's a good thing for the league
and good Schadenfreude for the rest of the Western Conference. I think too.
What would we call this Canucks opera? All My Children, Young and the Restless.
Yeah, that sounds right.
As long as it's not General Hospital, because we've seen enough bracelets and enough injuries. Like we don't need.
They have been more injured this year.
Yeah.
So Miller has the full trade protection. Elise doesn't until July, and my sense is just talk at Rutherford, Allvin are more Miller guys than Pettersson guys. So when you talk about getting the most at market, I think that's Pettersson, huh?
Well, I wonder how much of it is presented as, this is a team that's going to, this is a playoff team. Like the Vancouver Canucks are a playoff team. Who are we going to do better with in the playoffs? Is it going to be JT Miller or is it going to be Elias Pettersson? I wonder if how much of the conversation flat out just comes down to that. There's not that performance in the 82 games of the regular season is empty calorie, but we all know what happens when the puck gets heavier and everybody finishes their checks. Who are the guys that you want with you in that postseason? I still think that there's room for everybody. Like I think there's room for rugged players. I think there's room for soft skill players. Not everybody has to play the exact same style. Depends on who complements the soft skill type guys. But I think it is easier to look at JT Miller and say that's a playoff guy. That's one of those guys you win with.
Mm-hmm. Have you noticed Coach Tocchet seems to be getting more and more frustrated here? We are Jeff. We are losing one of the great communicators in hockey before our eyes.
He's being
because
muzzled.
Up until this week, Rick Tocchet just wanted to sit back and regale on the sport of hockey, and we all got smarter listening to him because he's a really sharp guy, and he loved talking hockey. And this week it has been, 7 questions in a minute and a half. 8-second answers.
He's literally doing this.
He went to the podium Saturday.
That's good, Blake.
He went to the podium Monday after a win and said, I'm going to be brief, and then just read through the game sheet of who he liked and then moved on. This was, of course, after last week. And the Pedersen. Oh, you guys want to talk about
Petey. Oh, yeah.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Anyways, that's a sad offshoot here of the soap opera.
No, listen, I always expect coaches to be the most stressed of anybody in the organization, don't you? I mean, they get to the rink first, they leave the rink last. They're the ones that take it home. They don't get to say things like I'm leaving it at the rink and then I'm having my regular life when I step out onto the street. Like every game follows them, every game lives with them. There's a game fog that travels with every coach. I honestly, you guys have friends that are coaches too. Like, yes.
And the losses hit harder than the wins are celebrated, right? That's the other.
You don't.
That is the other thing that keeps coaches captive, right? Like they suck on the losses, they sit there, and it drives them crazy.
A win they just throw away.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I don't know why anyone would choose this life. Like I get it that people are really competitive. Like honestly, have you not had these conversations with a coach? Like, why have you chosen this? It's like all my I'm not a golfer. Like for example, I don't golf. I don't enjoy it. I always say the best 2 balls I hit is when I step on a rake, because every time I go golfing, my friends who always tell me that it's relaxing, they're the most frustrated. I'm like, you don't really enjoy this. Like they're angry and frustrated and just drink and just I'm like, you're not enjoying this. Why are you doing
It's
this?
Self-flagellation is what it is. Yes.
Yeah,
You're
and then
just beating yourself up.
Blake spends 4 hours cursing Blake out by name, third person reference.
Yeah.
Bill Parcells, the old football coach, likened coaching to heroin, that it's an addiction.
But it's also why some guys just say they're done and they want to move into management because they don't want the roller coaster, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like Barry Trotz, which is a great segue because I kind of like Alexander Carrier as a player.
Yeah, me too.
And I didn't mind his contract either. And I know he's not a Redwood, but I wonder if he could have helped the Vancouver Canucks on their right side as a puck mover. And that was they must really think that Justin Barron is going to turn out there in Nashville to make that deal, huh? What's your intel there?
There must be a champion who stood up for Justin Barron in that situation. I'm with you. I like Alexander Carrier. I was surprised. I wasn't surprised at Dante Fabro. I wasn't surprised at Phil Tomasino. This one, even though we had heard his name out there for a while, I keep coming back to they just signed him in July. On the first day of free agency, here's a contract, and a very reasonable one as well. And that's one of the people that you're throwing off the side of the boat here. Now, we all know, you don't have to be a hardcore hockey observer to notice that the Nashville Predators have a problem down the middle. And by making this move, they're freeing up cap space probably to address that. Right? This move doesn't exist in a vacuum. And that's why I wonder in this scenario, if part of the motivation was we want to get back a young player that still has potential and a low cap hit because we need some cap flexibility. I do think that that's a big part of this one. The Carrier fit does look like it really, I got to say, like Ken Hughes. I know it's more the race to the first overall pick than anything else, but as far as trying to keep your team in games longer, so a game's not over the middle of the second period, like this is a really nice move. Logan Mayhew's probably, not ready for NHL duty, and Reinbacher's injured. So we don't expect either of those two to show up in Montreal until early next season at the earliest. So this one looks like a really smart move. I understand what you're saying about Vancouver, but I do wonder if part of the motivation is we want a young player at a really good cost that has what we believe to be some upside here. To your point, Matt, there must have been someone within that organization who said, we believe in this guy where teams before haven't.
Yeah, and I guess Höglander wasn't going to get it done for them.
Well, and financially too, right? Like we talked about last time with Höglander, like to be blunt, like one of the big ones is the contract.
I know, and like
tough one to move.
It looked like a very digestible contract, but when you go 26 games without a goal, then suddenly guys start worrying about being under term for 3 more years after this one.
When you sign someone after they shoot 1,000,000%, they're not always going to shoot 1,000,000%.
Trotz told LeBrun he's not tearing things down, and he only has really Nyquist as a pure rental. He does have a bunch of guys who are expiring after next season. Do you believe him there, or do you think there are going to be available pieces in Nashville as the season goes along?
I do think that there will be, but I do very much think at the same time that he still wants to at least remain competitive and isn't like when you talk about rebuilds, there's a couple of different types of rebuilds. Like right now, even though it doesn't necessarily feel like it, the Pittsburgh Penguins are going through a rebuild, right? We think of rebuild like trade all the veterans and nuts and bolts and strip it right down, but there's different kinds of rebuilds. Like right now for the Pittsburgh Penguins, if you're between the ages of 23 and 25 and you need a change of scenery, see Tomasino, see Glass, see Joseph from a couple of days ago as well, and you're in that we need a second chance era of your career, the Pittsburgh Penguins could be your home. And I think for the Nashville Predators, I think they're looking at this and they're saying, we're not going to tear it down. We want, not unlike Pittsburgh in some regards, we want younger, cheaper players here, but we're not going to strip this thing all the way down and try to rebuild it. Call it whatever you want.
Penguins are hanging around too. They're doing
Pens
okay.
are hanging in there. I'll hand it. You're right, Blake. Like Pens are hanging in. Well, listen, it's a combination of the New York Rangers opened the door and the Pittsburgh Penguins said, "Oh, thank you for holding this, Mr. Drury. We'll walk in here now. Thank you very much." So I think it's a couple of things there with the Pittsburgh Penguins, but I don't think that Barry Trotz wants to take this thing all the way down. I think that there's a sensitivity about that marketplace and marketplaces like that, and we've seen marketplaces like that go through rebuilds, and you get a lot of costume parties at your games where everybody comes dressed as an empty seat, and that terrifies teams. And I don't think Nashville wants to go through that.
It's a long trade freeze right now during the Christmas holidays. You've been around Friedman enough, and you have your own sources. How much do you think they actually do business, though, over all the holiday freeze here, so that anything, in the first couple of days when it's reopened, are we going to see some trades here? Because we have not the blockbuster, but we have expected the Canucks to pull off some sort of defensive trade before the trade freeze. That didn't happen, but is it more likely to happen now in the first couple of days, now that you've got days to just kind of put your feet up and talk to the team? Or are they just busy being dads and being grandpas and doing the holiday thing?
For teams that need to fill spots, no. There's no like, okay, I'm turning my phone off. If that rings, just let it ring. I think that there are still conversations that go on. But I think like the nature of the conversations are like, swing back second week of January and we'll see where we're at, or swing back after this road trip and we'll see where we're at. Teams sort of block off the schedule in sort of chunks of 5 or 7 or 10 or wherever, see me after this segment and we'll cycle back to our conversations, because I would imagine that a lot of the conversations would revolve around if this, then that, right? If this happens, we're prepared to do that. And we're prepared to do this thing with that player if this happens over the stretch of the next 5 games. But to think that managers aren't talking or texting through the holidays.
I mean, they're still on the road with their teams, right? Like, there's games happening, so they're still at work. Yeah.
There's no rest for coaches and no rest for managers.
And we're going to get more information on the Vancouver Canucks because they play the league's hottest team, the Ottawa Senators, winners of 5 in a row Saturday here at Rogers Arena. And then we see Macklin Celebrini and his glorious return to his hometown Monday with the San Jose Sharks.
I got in some hot water this week for having the nerve to suggest that perhaps Macklin Celebrini might just be a better player than Connor Bedard.
He is.
It's more well-rounded. There's more to
certainly more well-rounded. I think Connor Bedard is a better natural goal scorer.
Yep.
But for me, it's not close in terms of who I'd buy stock in.
Stamkos v. Crosby.
Because I think, I think Macklin Celebrini is going to be your 200-foot number 1 center, leader, goal scorer. Like I think he's Jonathan Taves with more offense.
That's right. Yeah.
I think he's closer to Steve Yzerman. Meld Steve Yzerman, the young Stevie Y who scored all the goals, and the older one who did everything for those Red Wings. I think that's Macklin Celebrini.
This is like some high rent territory already, right? We're talking Crosby and Taves.
He's on a 40-goal pace, Jeff. He got hurt in his first game. He had a 2-point first period in his NHL debut. He got hurt. He missed 10 games. He came back like nothing happened.
And he's having fun. The no-look passes and shots.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wonder too how much of it. I got treated for a war criminal, but for suggesting that this week. It was an interesting week for yours truly. Like, all the Bedard stands came out at me. I get it, you cheer for your guy and all that, but it's just fun watching San Jose right now. There's no pressure; they just go and play. Yeah, even it's just and Celebrini's just having the best time. And I wonder about Bedard, and there was even just a little bit more expectation for Chicago this year. It's kind of wearing on him. Right?
It does.
And
he looks a little tired.
I don't want to say
wearing on him.
I don't want to he's not sullen or anything but that it's wearing on him already. Okay, love the competitiveness, but oh boy, Connor, it's going to be a while yet. Whereas Macklin has an infectious personality. Like, he walks into a room and he lights it up with his smile, with his sense of humor, with his charisma, gregariousness, like all of those things. So.
Yeah.
Also, I'm so looking forward.
Also, I don't like the Jonathan Taves.
Oh yeah, no, he's not Captain Serious.
No,
he's Captain Unserious, if you will.
Yeah.
And keep things like a little Joe Thornton in that regard. Actually, wonderful stuff, my
landlord.
friend.
Landlord Joe Thornton.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I mean, going back into the Sharks room back in the day, and Blake and I were there many a times because of the playoff series. Like, it was the lightest fun, and all because of Joe. Right? Joe. Like, Joe just loved it when the media walked in and the show started.
And Jeff, I was in a sports bar in San Jose in August.
Yeah.
And I just settled down on the bar. The 3 guys to my left are all talking Sharks about Celebrini living with Thornton. Like, he could re-energize that market.
It's a wonderful hockey market, I think.
Do you know the story of Joe Thornton's first practice with the San Jose Sharks?
No.
Pray tell.
So he comes from Boston, obviously. I mean, the media is huge. And he gets to San Jose, and after his first skate, he looks around and he says, "Where's the media?" And someone says, "He's over there." Remember Dave Pollock, of course, from the Mercury?
Of course,
he's
David.
Where's the media? He's over there. How far we've come. He's over there.
That's awesome.
Hey, buddy, we'll be watching The Sheet noon Pacific time daily. Yeah. You have a marvelous holiday, Jeff Marek. Thanks, to you and yours. Enjoy the Otters Christmas, and we'll catch up.
Talk to you in 2025.
That's right.
Yeah. There it is. Emmett Otters Jug Band Christmas. Do yourself a favor, Matt. Do yourself a favor, Blake, and enjoy this Jim Henson classic. How can you not love that? Look at that. You're watching us on YouTube. Look at that. It's beautiful. Thanks, boys. Have a great holiday.
See you, buddy.